Hello everyone again, this is One-Eyed Willie. Before we move on to brakes, I wanted to go over wheels and tires briefly. Now, I'm not a tire expert, I'm not a wheel expert, but I'm going to share a few things I've learned dealing with these cars. The first question people normally have is, what do all these numbers mean? Very briefly, the 255 is a metric number for the width. So that would be 255 millimeters. 40 is the distance from the rim to the outside diameter of the tire. So as that number decreases, the thinner profile your tire is. And obviously the last number, the 18, is the diameter of the wheel. So with these being 255s, the width comes out to approximately 10 inches. A 295 tire would be approximately 11 and a half, a little shy of 11 and a half. Now the wheels on the bottom are 265 and the wheel I have sitting on top is a 255. You can see that there's not a lot of difference, especially between the tread width, but you're looking at 10 millimeters, which is roughly 400 thousandths. And this is the difference between a 255 and a 295 tire. Now, many people would just assume that wider tires are better, and they are in most cases. However, a narrow tire actually performs better in a wet environment. The reason for that is a narrow tire is going to have more pressure per square inch exerted onto it when you're accelerating, braking, or cornering. So in a wet environment, a narrow tire actually performs better. However, in a dry environment, if the tires are already spinning, or if they're locking up when braking, or they're skidding a lot during cornering, that typically means you need a wider tire. However, there are some other things you have to consider when looking at tires. What a lot of people don't realize is that a thin, soft tire is going to accelerate, brake, and corner better than a hard, wide tire. And the reason is because the softer tire is going to grip better on the contact surface. Friction determines how well the tire actually performs in a real-world environment. Now, as you look at tires and you look to purchase them, you'll notice that the extreme performance tires that are strictly for summer, that those tires usually have a lower warranty, and the reason is because they are softer. They will grip better, but they won't last as long. So you have to consider and weigh the pros and cons of a tire that will wear out quicker, but it'll perform better, versus a tire that will last longer, but possibly not perform quite as well. What you also need to look for when you view a tire to purchase is how many grooves and cuts and serrations the pattern has. The tire on the bottom is a Continental. I believe it's a pure contact. And you'll notice that it has 3 main grooves going down it. It has lots of serrations going back and forth, which is great for a wet environment. It'll also help it to ride a little smoother. This wheel up here, or this tire up here, is a Goodyear Supercar 3. And you'll notice that it only has 3 main grooves and just a few cutouts here or there. So this tire will perform better than this tire. However, when conditions are wet, this tire will slide and skid a lot more than a tire like this. If you're going to upgrade your stock C4 brakes to a C5 or C6 brake package, you'll need to have 18-inch wheels so that you have room between the inside of the rim and the outside of the caliper. They actually will sit up here, but they will still sit up higher because the C5 and C6 brakes are a larger diameter. And I'll talk more about why that makes a difference versus a smaller rotor later. If you decide to go with an 18-inch wheel package, keep in mind that the larger your wheel becomes and the more narrow the profile the tire gets, the less comfortable the ride will be. If the tire needs to stay at the same diameter and you move up to a larger wheel size, you're going to have to shrink the profile of the tire, which makes it ride more rough. A lower profile tire will not give and flex as much during accelerating, braking, or cornering, and the tire will not be absorbing a lot of the shock from the road, and you'll feel everything. Another thing to consider is that the wider your tire is, the bigger the wheel is, you're adding weight. And as you add weight, you're actually slowing the car down. It's harder for the wheels to get moving, and it's harder for the wheels to stop because of the centrifugal force. So keep that in mind as you get bigger. If you get bigger and bigger tires, you may not see any actual result other than the fact that your tires won't spin as much. However, on the other side, if your tires are too narrow, it doesn't matter if you have 2,000 horsepower, and it doesn't matter if you have a $4,000 Wildwood brake package. Your ability to accelerate and decelerate and corner is all based on the grip of the tire. And that's why tires are more important than anything else on your car. Lastly, I recommend, if you're going to go ahead and buy all new wheels and tires to use on a track or to track every now and then, my advice is to go with the same wheels and tires all the way around. And the reason is this: you can rotate them. If you stick with a standard Corvette setup where the back tires are larger than the front tires, then you're not able to rotate your tires. And if you do track a lot, in the rear you're going to wear out the center or the inside of the tire, and on the front you're going to wear out the outsides. So it doesn't do you any good to rotate from left to right on the front and left to right on the back. They're still going to wear unevenly. So my advice is get the same size all the way around. A safe bet is a 275 wide tire. You won't have any problems in the front with steering or hitting the sway bar or the tie rods. And obviously you're only dropping about 10 millimeters, which is 400 thousandths in the rear, since the standard tire is 285. Now in C4s, you're going to be very limited on what kind of tires you can get in the stock size, which is why I recommend, before you choose a specific size, you look online to see how many different options you have, because you'll find that the tire sizes that are most common, more manufacturers will make them in that size, and then you have a lot more choices. So you can go with a Goodyear Eagle, you can go with a Michelin Pilot Sport 4, you can go with Firestone, the Firehawk tires, whatever you want. The largest wheel you can put on the front that I know of is a 295 without any wheel spacers. However, you have to consider the offset of the wheel that you're buying before you get a tire, because if the offset is too far in, it'll end up hitting everything. Well, I will put a link to the tire offset calculator. You can put in your original wheel size. I believe that on a C4, I think it's C5, all of them, they're around 56 millimeter offset to the center of the tire. So you can actually, if you have a wheel that you want to buy, you can put it in there and see how much it'll shift. You'll want to find a wheel with an offset, so when you mount the tire, you have the same distance gained on the left side, inner side, or the right side, outer side. And that way you don't have to worry about the tire sticking too far out or the tire sticking too far in. If you add wheel spacers, keep in mind, it's on the back, you will wear out your differential a lot quicker. So I don't recommend people put wheel spacers. I've seen people buy huge tires, and because they rub on the inside, they put wheel spacers on. and that actually will ruin your car in the long run. And that's all for dealing with tires and wheels. The next video will deal with brakes and what I recommend to do and what to use so that you can stop quicker. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them. Thank you for watching, and God bless.